Tibet is located in southwestern China and has a population of approximately 2.62 million people. The Dalai Lama is a religious leader of the Buddhists and monks living there. Tibet always maintained very good relationships with their neighbors and internationality. Tibet remained neutral during World War II and avoided foreign influences until 1950. After 1950, everything changed. China invaded and annexed Tibet. Dalai Lama, at age 16, took action right away. He attended peace talks with Chinese leaders, which were unsuccessful. He was forced to leave Tibet along with many Tibetan monks. The Dalai Lama remained in exile until this day. He never forgot the Tibetan people. There will be a time when truth will prevail, he said. Therefore, it is important that everyone be patient and not give up. As to the future, I stated my belief that, with truth, justice, and courage as our weapons, we Tibetans would eventually prevail in regaining freedom for Tibet. China did not want Tibet to be independent. If Tibet became independent, China was afraid other parts of their country would want independence. China did not want to lose any territory it controlled. Tibetans were not allowed to practice their religion freely. This was not allowed by the Chinese government. The Chinese did not want religious practices to spread throughout their country. If China allowed Tibet to practice religion freely, other religions may fight for independence and China will be in chaos. Another fear that China has is running out of essential minerals within the next decade. Perhaps, said Ponstock, Tibet could commit itself to share some of its resources with China and to use Chinese rather than other foreign expertise to help them extract them. This would be a way of protecting some of China's economic interests. Tibet's enormous supply of minerals would help improve China's economic growth. If China ran out of minerals, they expected Tibet to share their supply. Improving China's economic interest would also benefit Tibet. Tibet also had good water sources and a significant mining industry. Tibet has an abundant oil reserve. China would also use their resources to benefit their country. China also wanted to decrease their overpopulation problem. By annexing Tibet, it gained extra land that would keep their population under control. China also believed Tibet needed their help in order to become a stable and successful society. President Obama recently met with the Dalai Lama. The meeting infuriated China, since China believes Tibet is part of its territory. There are also strategic and economic motives for China's attachment to Tibet. Tibet is a huge buffer zone between China and U.S.-friendly India, and Nepal and Bangladesh. If China did not annex Tibet, India would have controlled it instead. Then Nepal and Bangladesh. The Himalayan mountain range provides an added level of security as well as military advantage for the Chinese. The U.S. would be able to build military bases in Tibet and have direct aim at important economic and military targets in China. China has been good for Tibet. It has created a booming economy in Tibet, improved growth, infrastructure, and the Tibetan people's standard of living. Beijing has invested billions in Tibet over the past 10 years as a part of its wide-ranging economic development plan for Western China. Since 2001, Beijing has spent $45.4 billion on development in Tibet. About a third of the money went to infrastructure investment, including a train connecting Beijing to Lhasa, the capital of Tibet. A clear benefit of the train was that it makes industrial goods cheaper for Tibetans who, like everyone else in the world, like household conveniences, but normally had to pay very high prices, said Ben Hillman, a Tibet expert from the Australian National University's China Institute. Train also provides an opportunity for Tibetan goods to be sold outside of the region and for an increase in number of tourists reaching more than 5.5 million in 2009, up from 1 million in 2005, the year before the train. The Chinese government's Tibet Tourism Bureau expects the numbers to keep climbing. Hillman points out that tourism is an important industry. Close to 2 million in 2005, the year before the train. The Chinese government's Tibet Tourism Bureau expects the numbers to keep climbing. Hillman points out that tourism is an important industry that can benefit local Tibets. Infrastructure improvements have not only helped grow the economy, but also have helped modernize remote parts of the Tibetan Plateau. This area is home to 3 million people, about twice the size of France. Paved roads allow herders easier access to hospitals and the capital. Cell phone services in part of western Tibet is better than in parts of New Jersey, said Gray Tuttle, an assistant professor of modern Tibetan studies at Columbia University. Since 2006, the Chinese central government has been shifting its strategies from funding massive infrastructure projects to programs intended to bring greater benefit to individual Tibetans. The net per capita income of rural residents was $527 in 2009, an increase of more than 13% from 2008, and the fourth year in a row where growth exceeded 13%. While still low, it represents an increase in wealth for the Tibetan people. It seems clear that living standards among 80 to 90% of the population living in rural Tibet are rising rapidly. I was amazed at the amount of money actually being spent in these villages, said Melvin Goldstein at Case Western Reserve University. Through extensive rural fieldwork in Tibet, Goldstein found that health insurance plans are getting better, life expectancy has doubled, bank loans are now more accessible, schooling is free from primary school and middle school, and access to electricity and water is improving. In schools, students learn Mandarin, which gives Tibetans access to work opportunities in government offices in Tibet and in companies throughout China. The Chinese introduced formal education to Tibet in 1952, and presently there are over 3,000 schools and several institutes. Literacy rate since then has climbed from 2% to 95%. China had also ended the caste system, the old Tibet that most people from the West envision, as Shangri-La did not exist but was a brutal caste system with the lamas and feudal landlords oppressing the majority of the population. Last month, President Hu Jintao held the Communist Party's 5th Tibet Planning Conference, the first since 2001. He said that Tibetan rural income will most likely match China's average by 2020. He also stressed the need for Tibet to develop using the combination of economic growth, well-off life, a healthy eco-environment, and social stability and progress.